Hi. Okay, we are going to talk about critical listening today. We're going to talk about it in sales. What does critical listening mean? It means asking questions that are open-ended. We're not going to ask yes or no questions. And if we do ask yes or no questions, we only want to ask them if we know the answer is yes. Always lead them on a yes progression, not a no. Say, you wouldn't want that, would you? They'll say no. You don't want to reinforce a no, right? So it's just a strategy. You're probably asking questions. If you're doing that, you're probably thinking you're setting them up psychologically correctly. But when you do that, you might be putting them in the right state of mind, but it's confusing them unconsciously because they want what you're selling. You're getting them in that direction, and yet they've got this continued pattern to say no. So switch that around. So you're doing the right thing. You're just doing it just slightly wrong in some instances, right? And I'm not pointing any fingers. I'm saying that this is what some people do. Anyway, that is it's a way to completely flip. You might be, if you're doing that and you're wondering why you keep getting no, well, that's why, right? So anyway, now we're going to ask open-ended questions. So you might say, man, so were you home for the hailstorms? They're like, that's not an open-ended question. That's a yes. Say, wow, what was that like? So now it gives them a chance to get into their imagination, right? And you're letting them get into the creative side of their brain. And it's letting their mind work. And our minds like to do that. And it's fun. And so that makes them thankful, really subconsciously. Unconsciously, they are thankful to you because you're allowing them to recount that and to tell that story. And people like to tell stories, right? So you got to recognize, here's a question you might ask yourself. What is the most popular word in the world? What's the most popular word in any culture? That word is, I'm not saying this right. Okay, what's the most popular topic in any culture, no matter what, across the board? And I set this up wrong, so you probably already know the answer. The most popular topic is you, right? And what is the favorite word of anyone across any time? And I think I said that wrong too, but you get the idea. It's your name, right? If you hear your name whispered across the room, your ears are going to perk up, right? Not every time, but it's there, right? So anyway, now, that being said, ask people about themselves. Ask them about their stories. Let them tell you about it. When you're going out here and you ask them if they were there for the hailstorm, or were they there when the tornado was close by, or when the winds were kicking, or even if they weren't, they might have been outside. Let them tell their story, right? And then you pick out things out of what they're saying. You pick out their pain points. Someone says, yeah, it was crazy, man. There was a shingle ripped up right over here and blew off. And then, so now you know there's a shingle over here. There is a possibility to go put a tarp on to make some money right there doing the tarping and to solidify the business, right? So you're going to find that you're listening for that kind of stuff. And then you turn the questions back around. You pick something out and then you throw another question out there. You might relate to them a little bit sometime in between, right? As you're talking, say, yeah, man, I was in a storm one time. I remember when I was going to this one storm and another storm hit while I was driving out there. And you tell your story, you give them like 2 or 3 sentences, not a bunch. Don't take up the time. Give it to them. Let them talk, right? So you're just going to give them a couple sentences and turn it back on them and ask another question. Let them answer, and they'll tell you paragraphs and paragraphs, and they'll tell you how to sell them, right? A lot of times, I'll go up and I'll be knocking on the door. Maybe it's the daytime, so maybe I'll get an old lady. She's there, and she is lonely, right? She's like 80 years old or something. She's sitting there by herself, lonely, and she doesn't have anybody to talk to. Her kids or grandkids, and, they might stop by here and there, but maybe she, her friends have passed, or, they're old, so they don't get together that often. She doesn't get to talk to anybody, right? Let her talk, right? Listen to her. Make friends with her, right? Making friends, making that connection, build that rapport, right? Get them to say yes, right? Anytime you ask them a yes or no question, make sure the answer is yes, right? And that's how you build them up to the close, right? And always look for that close. You're always looking for the close, right? And Just anytime you feel like you can get them closed, but you've already probably got them closed at this point if you're sitting down with them like that, and you want to sit down at their table, right? You want to get down and sit in their living room, where there's a living room table or the kitchen dining room table, right? Because that's where people do deals. People don't do deals on the front porch. I mean, they will, right? But anyway, so we do the assumed sale. That's the way I always do it. I walk up after I get off the roof. I will walk up and I will fill the contract out, asking them, your name. What was your last name? Smith. Okay. And your phone number? What was that? 317. Yada 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 yada. Okay, cool. And they're going to give me the answers and help me fill out the contract without even knowing that's what I'm doing. And then I'm going to say, okay, and I'm going to give us our close, do what we do. But anyway, if there's ever any questions, right? And also, while I'm building up before that, when I first get to talking to them, I'm going to come out here, and that's when I'm going to start with the listening, the critical listening. I'm going to ask them a couple of those questions when I first get there, right? Sometimes I might just first immediately get up on the roof, but sometimes, and that depends on them, on how it feels with them, right? If it feels like there may be a little pushback, then I'm going to say, hey, I'm Greg, I'm here to get on the roof, I'll just let you know I'm here. That way, they can't say, oh yeah, and they can't try and change their mind on me or anything, right? I'm there for the appointment, right? But if I haven't got the appointment, if I'm going there and some random stuff, that's when you ask them the questions, right? And then you've got an opportunity to get on the roof because you've been listening and you've showed them that you have interest and then maybe you know what you're doing and you've earned the opportunity to show them you know what you're doing. But anyway, that's all we got for this. This was on critical listening during the sale.